Let us continue D block elements. In the D block elements, we will see compounds. We will see the compound we are taking a HgCl2. HgCl2 compound we will take. This HgCl2 we can write it as Cl. Structure we will see Cl and Hg will see. Mercury comes under zinc family. In zinc family, the valence shell contains 2 electrons. Therefore, they are making bonds like this. So we can say the shape is linear. Linear shape we can say. Now, this mercury chloride HgCl2 is corrosive sublimate. It is corrosive. It is poisonous. It is sublimate. That means on heating the solid directly converting into vapor. Therefore, we are saying that it is corrosive sublimate we are saying. So, with the potassium iodide, how it will react, that we will see with the potassium iodide. Now, mercury chloride we are taking, we are adding potassium iodide solution. What it gives in the sense, it gives double displacement. You take mercury and iodine becomes HgI2, HgI2, and potassium and chlorine becomes potassium chloride. This HgI2 we can say scarlet precipitate. HgI2 is a scarlet precipitate. Then this HgI2 dissolves in excess of potassium iodide. This HgI2 dissolves in excess of potassium iodide to give what means K2HgI4 complex. K2HgI4 complex we are getting. This complex is colorless. This complex is colorless. This complex only we are calling as a Nessler's reagent. Nessler's reagent is what? Alkaline solution of this. Alkaline solution of this complex is called a Nessler's reagent we can say. So mercury chloride with potassium iodide gives double displacement. So mercuric iodide, this mercuric iodide dissolves in excess of potassium iodide to give complex K2HgI4. Here cation is K plus, anion is a complex ion HgI4 2 minus. Complex ion is HgI4 2 minus. Okay. Next, mercury chloride with stannous chloride reaction we'll see. Now, mercury chloride with the stannous chloride. With the stannous chloride, what we will get, we'll see. Mercuric chloride becomes mercurous chloride. Mercurous chloride. Stannous chloride becomes stannic chloride. Yeah. This mercuric contains a positive oxidation number +2. It is converting into mercurous +1. This mercurous exists in the form of dimeric form. Dimeric ion is Hg2 plus. Therefore, dimeric is like this, mercurous chloride. Why Hg plus undergoes a dimerization? Because mercury valence shell contains 2 electrons. Hg plus 1 means this valence shell contains one unpaired electron. These two unpaired electrons make a bond. Therefore, we are getting Hg2 2 plus. So, mercurous ion exists in dimeric form. Experimental evidence is it is diamagnetic. That means no unpaired electron. That means the unpaired electrons involved in bonding. Therefore, it is a diamagnetic we can say. So, mercuric chloride becomes mercurous chloride. Stannous chloride becomes a stannic chloride. Okay. Then next, this mercurous chloride with the stannous chloride gives mercury and stannic chloride. Stannous is converting into stannous. Mercurous is converting into mercury. So this mercury is this mercury we can say black appearance, otherwise gray appearance. This mercury appearance is black or gray we can say. Next reaction, mercuric chloride with sulfur dioxide gas and water. What is the product we will get? We will see mercuric becomes mercurous. Mercuric becomes mercurous. Mercuric chloride becomes mercurous chloride. This sulfur +4 oxidation state becomes +6 oxidation state. +4 sulfur becomes +6 sulfur. This sulfur dioxide becomes sulfuric acid. Sulfur dioxide becomes sulfuric acid we can say. Then mercuric chloride with ammonium hydroxide. With ammonium hydroxide, otherwise ammonia gives mercuric amido chloride, mercuric amido chloride. This is white, mercuric amido chloride we can say, mercuric amido chloride. This Hg2 plus, this Hg2 plus takes NH2 minus, NH2 minus and becomes mercuric amido chloride. Amido we can say, mercuric amido chloride we can say. Next, Hg2 plus salts are colorless. Hg2 plus salts are colorless because this valency shell contains completely filled D subshell. This valency shell is 5D10. Valency shell contains 5D10. 5D10 means it is completely filled. Completely filled means a DD transition not possible. Therefore, it is not having any color. Next, we will take mercurous chloride. We will take mercurous chloride, Hg2Cl2. It is used in collomal electrode. It is used in collomal electrode. Therefore, mercurous chloride is also called collomal. Mercurous chloride is insoluble in water. Mercurous chloride is insoluble in water. Okay. Mercurous chloride is insoluble in water. Then mercurous salts are colorless because unpaired electrons not present. Therefore, this mercurous in the sense this valency shell D is completely filled. Therefore, it is not undergoing DD transition, so that it is colorless. Mercurous chloride undergoes a disproportionation reaction. It is +1 oxidation number, it becomes +2 mercuric and 0 mercury. So +1 becoming +2, that is called oxidation. +1 becomes 0, that is called a reduction. So mercuric chloride we can say like this. So mercurous chloride on disproportionation gives a mercuric chloride and a mercury. Then mercurous chloride Hg2Cl2 will treat with ammonia. What will happen? This mercurous chloride undergoes a disproportionation to give mercury. That mercury we can write. This mercurous chloride on disproportionation gives a mercuric Hg2 plus. Hg2 plus, this Hg2 plus takes amido group NH2 minus and this Cl minus and becomes a mercuric amido chloride. Then here H plus and Cl minus becomes HCl we can say. Now mercury color is black or grey. This mercuric amido chloride is white. Both combining together appearing black. So mercurous chloride with ammonia gives a mercuric amido chloride. Next step, we will go for ferrous salts. We will discuss about some ferrous salts. Now we will take green vitriol. Ferrous salts, in that green vitriol we will take. Green vitriol formula is what means? FeSO4.7H2. Green vitriol formula is FeSO4.7H2. So, this green vitriol on strong heating, what happens? This green vitriol on strong heating, what happens? What happens means water molecules will escape away. Then this ferrous will convert into ferric. The sulfate will convert into sulfur dioxide. That means ferrous Fe2 plus undergoes oxidation and becomes ferric. Oxidation. Sulfate, sulfur +6 undergoes reduction and becomes sulfur dioxide +4. Sulfur is +4. Therefore, this green vitriol on strong heating, what happens means water molecules escaping away. Ferrous is becoming ferric. Sulfate becoming sulfur dioxide. This ferric is converting into ferric oxide. Ferric is converting into ferric oxide. Sulfur dioxide will remain as it is. So green vitriol on strong heating, water molecules escaping away. Ferrous is converting into ferric. Sulfate is converting into sulfur dioxide. Ferric is existing in the form of ferric oxide and sulfur dioxide is obtained. Now, this sulfate on strong heating, what happens means that will give sulfur trioxide. That sulfur trioxide with water, what will happen means sulfuric acid. Sulfuric acid also will be obtained. In the sulfur trioxide, sulfur oxidation number is +6. That for that no change in oxidation number. Therefore, net reaction we'll see. So green vitriol we are taking, green vitriol. This on strong heating, what happens means ferrous converting into ferric, ferric converting into ferric oxide. Then this sulfate, in the sulfate, sulfur undergoing reduction, +6 becomes +4, that gives sulfur dioxide. Sulfate on heating decomposes to give sulfur trioxide. Sulfur trioxide with water gives sulfuric acid. That's sulfuric acid. These water molecules evaporating away, that water molecules. Here 2 Fe, therefore 2 times. Water molecules 14. We will write 13. Remaining one is combining with the sulfur trioxide and gives sulfuric acid. That one. So that green vitriol on strong heating gives so and so products we can say. Then this in the lab we are using ferrous salts for volumetric analysis. Permanganometric analysis, permanganometric titration. In permanganometric titration, we are taking potassium permanganate in the burette. In the permanganometric titration, we are taking potassium permanganate in the burette. Pipette solution is, conical flask solution is FAS, ferrous ammonium sulfate solution. Conical flask solution is what in the sense? Ferrous ammonium sulfate solution, FAS solution. Ferrous ammonium sulfate solution, how to prepare? Ferrous ammonium sulfate solution, how to prepare? That we will see. What is FAS? FAS is what? FAS is called a ferrous ammonium sulfate, we are to say. FAS is called a ferrous ammonium sulfate, we are saying. How to prepare that salt we'll see. We'll take ferrous sulfate solution and ammonium sulfate solution. We will take in the required concentration ratio. Then both solutions are mixed with each other. Then the mixture is allowed for crystallization. After crystallization, we are getting crystals. The crystals formula is FeSO4 dot NH4 twice SO4 dot 6H2. It is called FAS crystals. It is a double salt. This FAS crystals, required quantity we have to take and required amount of water we have to add, and we will prepare solution. This is called FAS solution. This FAS solution will be titrated against potassium permanganate. Okay. So in the pipette solution is what means FAS solution, that is taken in conical flask. In the burette solution is what means potassium permanganate solution. What is the reaction takes place? From the burette we are adding permanganate. In the conical flask, ferrous is there. Ferrous is there, Fe2 plus. Permanganate is converting into what in the sense Mn2 plus. In the acidic medium H plus. Ferrous is converting into ferric. It is the reaction. It is the permanganometric titration. In this we have taken FAS. This FAS solution, how we are preparing, that we have to see. First we have to take required quantity of FAS. Then add small amount of water and stir it. You can see the solution is turbid. Why turbid? Because ferrous undergoes hydrolysis. Ferrous undergoing hydrolysis. Ferrous is reacting with water and gives ferrous hydroxide. Ferrous is taking OH minus from water. In the water, what is the remaining means H plus is the remaining. Due to ferrous hydroxide, it is insoluble in water. Therefore, the resultant solution is turbid. So, how to prepare this FAS solution? We have taken FAS required quantity. We added some amount of water. We have stirred the contents. We got turbid solution because of formation of FeOH twice. This will be at equilibrium. This is at equilibrium. So, what we have to do? We have to remove this turbidity. How to remove the turbidity? By favoring backward reaction. How to favor backward? Add common ion. What is a common ion? H plus. So, how to add common ion? Add dilute sulfuric acid. If you add dilute sulfuric acid, it gives H plus. So, concentration of H plus increases. Therefore, backward favors. Backward favors in the sense this turbid is removed. Therefore, how to prepare FAS solution? Take required quantity of FAS, add some amount of water, add dilute sulfuric acid, stir the contents, then add required amount of water and get a FAS solution. Due to addition of dilute sulfuric acid, it is giving common ion. Therefore, this turbid is removed, backward is favored, equilibrium is shifting almost towards left. Therefore, hydrolysis of ferrous will be prevented. Like that only FAS solution will be prepared. Okay, sorry. Therefore, how to prevent hydrolysis of ferrous? By adding dilute sulfuric acid solution. Okay, in the titration of FAS versus KMnO4, what they will do means, FAS we have to take in the burette using pipette. FAS we have to take in the conical flask using pipette. KMnO4 we have to take in the burette. And we are titrating this one in acidic medium. Therefore, in the conical flask, you have to add dilute sulfuric acid solution. Why we have to titrate in acidic medium? If we give acidic medium, then permanganate is converting into Mn+2. If we give neutral medium, permanganate is converting into MnO2. If we give slightly acidic medium, MnO4 minus, permanganate is converting into MnO2. If we give strongly basic medium, permanganate is converting into manganate, MnO4 2 minus. Therefore, based on the medium only, the reaction takes place. Therefore, in this titration, we are taking dilute sulfuric acid, acidic medium we are taking. So, permanganate is converting into ferric, ferrous is converting into ferric, permanganate is converting into Mn2 plus. Okay. So, then we will see about some ferric salts. We'll see about some ferric salts. Some ferric salts we will discuss. We will take a ferric salt solution. We'll take ferric salt solution we are taking. To this, we will add ammonium thiocyanate solution. That gives thiocyanate. Thiocyanate we added. We are getting a what in the sense a deep red color. The deep red color is due to this one. This is a deep red coloration, we can say. Deep red color is obtained. This deep red color is FeCNS thrice, we can say. Deep red coloration we are saying. This one we can say even in the form of a complex also we can say. Even in the form of complex also we can say. Sir, how to say in the form of complex? In the sense this Fe3 plus present in the aqueous solution in the form of complex. That complex is what means FeH2O 6 times 3 plus aqueous. Water is the ligand here. This water ligand is replaced by CNS minus. Therefore, we will have FeCNS H2O 5 times 2 plus. It is one complex. Like this, you can write many complex by replacing water. And you replace another water, then CNS becomes twice, water becomes 4 times. Again replace water, CNS becomes 3 times, water becomes 3 times. You go on replace water, CNS becomes 4 times, water becomes 2 times. CNS becomes 5 times, water becomes 1 time. CNS becomes 6 times, no water. While this charge also will go on change because CNS charges, net charge is -1, Fe net charge is +3. Okay, sir. So these complexes giving deep red color to the solution. So ferric salt with thiocyanate gives a deep red color to the solution, we can say. Next, we will take ferric salt solution. We are taking ferric salt solution. Then we will take a ferrocyanide. We will take ferrocyanide. Ferrocyanide we will take. Ferrocyanide solution we will add into this ferric salt solution. Ferrocyanide solution we are adding. Okay, it is complex. It is ferro. Here oxidation number is +2. This is what in the sense ferrocyanide. In ferrocyanide, Fe is having +2 charge. It is ferric salt. It is ferrocyanide. In ferrocyanide, Fe is having +2 charge. Okay, both solutions we have mixed. What we are getting in the sense, you crisscross method, cross multiply, you will get the resultant compound Fe4, FeCN 6 times thrice. This is what in the sense, this Fe is called +3, therefore ferric. This Fe is having +2, therefore it is ferrocyanide. ferrocyanide solution. This solution is having what color in the sense Prussian blue. This solution color is what means Prussian blue. This ferrocyanide, it is what means ferrocyanide. This solution color is what in the sense Prussian blue color. This solution is a Prussian blue color, we can say. It is ferric salt, it is ferrocyanide. Ferrocyanide solution we are adding into ferric salt solution, we are getting ferrocyanide solution. This solution color is a Prussian blue, we can say. Prussian blue, we can say. Okay, we'll go for next. We'll take a ferricyanide complex. Will take ferricyanide, FeCN 6 times 3 minus. This is what in the sense ferricyanide. This is what means ferricyanide. To this we will add ferrous salt. We will add ferrous salt, Fe2 plus salt. We will add ferrous salt. It is ferricyanide solution. It is ferrous solution we have taken. Now what happens means this ferrous oxidizes to give ferric. This ferrous oxidizes and become ferric. This ferricyanide becomes ferrocyanide now. Ferrocyanide. This ferricyanide becomes ferrocyanide. This is what means ferrocyanide. Ferrocyanide. This FeCN 6 times 3 minus. It is what in the sense plus 3. Oxidation number is plus 3. Now oxidation number is plus 2. It is undergoing reduction. It is undergoing oxidation. So we got like this. Now it is giving what in the sense here K plus cation will be there. Here cation is K plus. Here Fe3 plus cation is there. This anion, what is anion means FeCN 6 times 4 minus. This anion is there. Now this resultant solution contains, these are the ions. This name what we can say means K plus we can say potassium, Fe3 plus we can say ferri. This complex name we can say ferrocyanide. Ferrocyanide. This solution color is what means this solution color is called as Turnbull's color blue. Turnbull's blue. This solution color is said as Turnbull's blue. Turnbull's blue we can say. Next in the ferric salt, next we will see. We'll take a hydrated ferric chloride. We'll take hydrated ferric chloride. This hydrated ferric chloride is heated. This hydrated ferric chloride is heated. What happens means this ferric undergoes hydrolysis and becomes ferric hydroxide. Ferric takes water OH minus from water molecules and becomes ferric hydroxide. Ferric hydroxide undergoes a dehydration and gives what means ferric oxide. Ferric oxide. Then H plus takes Cl minus and becomes HCl. Now let us balance. Fe is 2. Okay. Cl is 6. Okay. Hydrogen is how many times means 6 times is there. Hydrogen is 6 times is there. Therefore here we have to see how many water molecules are there. We have to see, based on that only we can balance the rest. Sir. Next step we'll take ferric salt FeI3. we will take FeI3 ferric iodide. Ferric iodide is unstable. Ferric chloride we will take FeCl3. Ferric chloride is stable. Ferric iodide is unstable, whereas ferric chloride is stable. Why? Because ferric iodide contains Fe3 plus and I minus. I minus reduces Fe3 plus into Fe2 plus. I minus itself undergoes oxidation to give I2. So FeI3 is unstable because I minus reduces ferric. So ferric becomes ferrous, I minus becomes iodine. I minus becomes iodine, we can say. Whereas ferric chloride is stable because chloride is not reducing ferric. Chloride is not reducing ferric. So we can say in this point we can say ferric iodide is unstable, whereas ferric chloride is stable, we can say. Next step, we will take ferric chloride solution. We'll take to this, we will pass H2S gas. What we are getting in the sense, we are getting ferrous chloride and sulfur, because ferric and sulfide. Ferric is reduced by sulfide. Sulfide reduces ferric, therefore ferric becomes ferrous. Sulfide undergoes oxidation and becomes sulfur. Next. Now we will take aqueous solution of ferric chloride. We will take aqueous solution of ferric chloride. This aqueous solution of ferric chloride is colloid. Why aqueous solution of ferric chloride is colloid? In the sense, this ferric undergoes hydrolysis and gives ferric hydroxide. This ferric hydroxide size is coming under colloidal size. Therefore, aqueous solution of ferric chloride we can call colloid. Why colloid? In the sense, ferric is undergoing hydrolysis to give ferric hydroxide. That's why. Now, this colloid is yellow color due to Tyndall effect. This colloid is having yellow color because of Tyndall effect. Next, we'll go for silver halides. We are going for silver halides. In the silver halides, we'll take a solubility in water. We'll see AgF, silver halides. First one is AgF. It is fairly soluble in water. Other silver halides, AgCl, AgBr, AgI, is insoluble in water. AgF is fairly soluble in water. AgCl, AgBr, AgI insoluble in water. Down the group, if you see, solubility decreases. Down the group, solubility what happens means decreases. That means AgF is more soluble than AgCl. AgCl is more soluble than AgBr, like this. Down the group, solubility decreases. AgF slightly soluble in water. AgCl, AgBr, AgI are insoluble in water. Therefore, in the salt analysis, for the chloride test, we will add silver nitrate solution. We will get silver chloride white precipitate. Sorry. Next, in the salt analysis, Cl minus test we will see. In the Cl minus test, we will take chloride salt. To this, we will add silver nitrate solution. All the metal nitrates are quite soluble in water. Silver nitrate solution we will add. What we will get in the sense AgCl white precipitate we will get. We are getting AgCl white precipitate. To this white precipitate, if we add ammonia, the white precipitate dissolves due to formation of complex. The complex is AgNH3 twice Cl. This complex is quite soluble in water. This white precipitate dissolves in ammonia due to formation of what means complex, we can say. Okay. Then what about silver bromide? If you take bromide here, you will get a yellow precipitate AgBr. You will get pale yellow precipitate AgBr. We are getting this AgBr dissolves in concentrated ammonia. But AgCl dissolves even in dilute ammonia. AgBr pale yellow precipitate, it dissolves in concentrated ammonia due to formation of complex. The complex is AgNH3 twice Br. This complex is possible. If you take I minus aqueous solution, to this add silver nitrate solution, we are getting silver iodide yellow precipitate. To this you add concentrated ammonia. What happens means this AgI is not soluble in concentrated ammonia. Silver iodide is insoluble in ammonia. Silver iodide we can say insoluble in ammonia we can say. So silver chloride is soluble in dilute ammonia. Silver bromide is soluble in concentrated ammonia. Silver iodide is insoluble in ammonia solution. Okay. Next we will see silver chloride. Silver chloride is soluble in silver chloride we will take. It is soluble in potassium cyanide solution. We are taking silver chloride. It is precipitate. It is soluble in potassium cyanide solution. Why? Why it is soluble in potassium cyanide solution? Because of complex. The complex is what means KAgCN twice. This is the complex is possible. Therefore, it is dissolved. It is dissolved, we are saying. Okay. So, silver chloride is soluble in potassium cyanide due to formation of complex. What is the complex ion is formed in the sense AgCN twice minus. It is the complex ion is possible. Silver chloride is soluble in potassium cyanide because of formation of complex. Complex is AgCN twice minus. This complex is possible. Okay. Next, the silver bromide is used in photography. Silver bromide is going for photochemical decomposition. Photochemical decomposition, that means in sunlight it is undergoing decomposition to give silver and bromine. Silver and bromine we can see. Next we will see something about silver nitrate salt. Silver nitrate salt. Now we will take a silver nitrate. This silver nitrate is a dark color. This silver nitrate we have to store in dark colored bottles. Why? Because it decomposes in the presence of sunlight. Silver nitrate we have to store in dark colored bottles. That's why in the lab, how silver nitrate packed, and in the industry, how they are packing silver nitrate and sending into the school lab, in the sense they will pack silver nitrate colorless crystals in the dark brown colored bottle. Otherwise, a black plastic bottle, in that they will store the silver nitrate and they will send. So why? Because silver nitrate decomposes in the presence of sunlight. That's why. Okay. Silver nitrate on heating, what happens? On heating, it gives what, in the sense silver nitrite and oxygen. When the temperature is above the melting point of silver, when the temperature is above its melting point, when the temperature is above the melting point of silver nitrate, while silver nitrate on heating gives silver nitrite and oxygen. Now, silver nitrate is heated to red hot condition now. Silver nitrate is heated to what condition? Means red hot condition. What happens means this decomposes completely to give silver NO2O2. Generally, metal nitrate on heating gives metal oxide, but here it gives metal, because silver oxide is unstable with a high temperature. Silver oxide easily decomposes at high temperature to give silver and oxygen. So remember that silver nitrate on heating to red hot condition gives silver, nitrogen dioxide and oxygen. So then when we are handling silver nitrate, we should be careful. Why? Because if silver nitrate white crystals, colorless crystals falling over our skin, then our skin becomes black. Why? Because why skin is becoming black? In the sense, silver nitrate decomposes in the presence of sunlight and gives silver NO2O2. This silver is appearing black. Generally, silver ornaments are there that we are seeing white, but in this silver nitrate, it is decomposing to give silver. No, this silver will be black color. Therefore, the skin will appear black stains. Black stains will be there over our skin. Why black stain is there over our skin? In the sense, because of silver nitrate. Therefore, silver nitrate we should handle carefully. That means silver nitrate should not fall over our skin. Sir, the silver nitrate falling over our skin means what happens? We have seen it is decomposing. Why? Because one is sunlight, another one is the skin is decomposing silver nitrate. The skin is there. No, this will decompose this silver nitrate. This skin contains organic matter. This organic matter decomposes silver nitrate, and silver nitrate becomes silver. This silver is precipitate. It is black. It is black. Therefore, black stains will be there over the skin. So we should carefully handle silver nitrate. Set. Next, we will take silver coins. We will take from the silver coins how to extract silver. How to extract silver from silver coins, that we'll see. So we are taking silver coin. From silver coin, how to extract silver, that we'll see. Now, so why to extract silver from silver coin? Silver coin not only contains silver, some other metals also. It is in the form of alloy. So how to recover silver from silver coin, that we will see. Now we will take silver coin. To this we will add corn nitric acid. Silver dissolves in corn nitric acid and becomes silver nitrate. To this silver nitrate, what is added? In the sense, HCl is added. Therefore, silver nitrate is precipitating as AgCl white precipitate. To this AgCl white precipitate, what is added means sodium carbonate, and it is fused. It is heated. What happens means we are getting silver carbonate. We are getting silver carbonate on strong heating gives silver carbon dioxide and oxygen. Therefore, we got silver. We recovered silver. Okay. Next, we will go for some zinc salts. We will discuss about some zinc salts. We will discuss. Okay. Some zinc salts we will take. Now we will take zinc. We will take zinc is exposed to moist air. What will happen when zinc is exposed to moist air? What will happen? That we will see. Okay. Zinc is undergoing oxidation with oxygen, and in the presence of moisture becomes zinc hydroxide. That means zinc undergoes oxidation, oxygen undergoes reduction. So, this zinc hydroxide takes carbon dioxide from the atmospheric air and becomes zinc carbonate. This zinc carbonate and zinc hydroxide becomes a basic zinc carbonate. Basic zinc carbonate. Basic zinc carbonate. That basic zinc carbonate contains zinc carbonate, and for every zinc carbonate 3 times zinc hydroxide is present. For every zinc carbonate 3 times zinc hydroxide is present. Basic zinc carbonate. So zinc on exposure to moist air, that surface becomes a basic zinc carbonate like this. Next we will see. We will take white vitriol. We will take white vitriol. We are taking white vitriol. We are taking this white vitriol formula is what in the sense ZnSO4.7H2. Already we have seen green vitriol, that is FeSO4.7H2. Green vitriol formula we have seen as FeSO4.7H2 we have seen. Now we are seeing white vitriol. This formula is ZnSO4.7H2. Sir. This white vitriol and green vitriol contain same amount of water molecules, same amount of hydrated water molecules. Here cation is Zn2 plus, there cation is Fe2 plus. Therefore, these two are isomorphous salts. Isomorphous salts we can say. Now, this white vitriol on strong heating, that first greater than 70 degrees Celsius. What happens means it loses 6 water molecules. Therefore, what is rest in the sense ZnSO4.H2. Then it is heated to greater than 280 degrees Celsius. Greater than 280 degrees Celsius. Now it is giving anhydrous zinc sulfate. No water molecules will be there. All the water molecules evaporated away. Then it is heated to 800 degrees Celsius. Now zinc sulfate decomposes to give zinc oxide and sulfur trioxide. Sulfur trioxide further decomposes to give sulfur dioxide and oxygen. Next. Now we will take hydrated zinc chloride. Now we will take hydrated zinc chloride. This hydrated zinc chloride on heating gives a anhydrous zinc chloride. It is not possible. Hydrated zinc chloride on heating not giving anhydrous zinc chloride. Why? Because this zinc ion undergoing hydrolysis with water molecules. Undergoing hydrolysis with water molecules to give what in the sense zinc hydroxychloride. Zinc hydroxychloride it will give. That means Zn2 plus takes OH minus from water and becomes Zn OH minus and Cl minus. Here one water molecule giving one OH minus to zinc ion and remaining H plus takes HCl minus and becomes HCl. So like this update. So hydrated zinc chloride on hydrolysis, on heating undergoes hydrolysis to give so and so. Therefore, we cannot get anhydrous zinc chloride by heating hydrated zinc chloride. Next step. Now we will consider white paint. We will consider. In the white paint, generally lead salts will be used. Lead salts will be used. But what is the drawback in the sense? Lead salts with hydrogen sulfide gas pollutant becomes a PBS black. Therefore, if you use lead salts, that means white lead if you use, the white color becomes black. the white becomes black due to the pollutant H2S gas. Lead salts combine with hydrogen sulfide, that means hydrogen sulfide, and becomes a PBS, that is black. In order to avoid the PBS formation, lead salts, instead of lead salts, what is taken in the sense? Phosphorus wool. This is taken. It is zinc oxide. It is taken. It is taken in the white paint. It is not becoming black with H2S. It is not becoming black with H2S. With H2S, if it forms ZNS, ZNS is dirty white, not black. Therefore, this zinc oxide is used. And another thing, this zinc oxide is non-poisonous. Therefore, in the white paints, phosphorus wool zinc oxide is used. What are the advantages in the sense? Due to pollutant H2S, it is not becoming black. Another one is it is not poisonous. Therefore, zinc oxide is used in white paints instead of lead salts. Okay. Let us continue the rest in the next class.